Okay, video is to document my 100% AI assisted approach to content generation. So as you can see, we start with a content calendar with the recommendations from our SEO manager as far as the type of content to be created. And then what I've done, and this is kind of a pre-condition to this, but it's already set up, and we'll probably set this up for each and every client. What I did here is I trained a custom ChatGPT, which in this case is the Tech Strategist Guide. So this guide is essentially trained to be a CIO, a CTO that is experienced and is trained and optimized to write articles in an accessible way for a more junior or less experienced technologist or CIO, and to just simply write articles about topics to, again, make them accessible and in the context of a blog post. So I've already trained this particular ChatGPT, and then there's a couple of other optimized ChatGPTs that have been trained by some SEO folks, actually friends of mine. One is to format the article, and then the other is to create a featured image, right, for the blog. And so again, these are optimized. I also have this one, which is kind of my SEO. I call it SEO Sage. This is my SEO person. I don't necessarily need to go through this last step if you as the SEO manager want to kind of do the final touches, which are essentially pull out the keywords and write the meta description. So this is how I go about this. So the first step, I break all of these out into separate tabs, because these are, I'm a big believer in this. Whenever you use ChatGPT, you should be simulating an actual workflow. And so that's what we're doing here. The workflow is, hey, we're going to have an expert that, we're essentially interviewing and asking them to write up an article, but it's kind of simulates an interview of that expert. We're going to get all of that information. We're going to write an article. Then we're going to move it over to our SEO expert and have them format that article in such a way that it will ideally sort of technically do well from an SEO perspective. And then last but not least is to create that unique, non-copyrighted, no problematic image, and then pull all that into the actual finished document and article for review by the client, so that they can approve it, and then we can ultimately publish it. So I'm going to take you through that process and show you kind of how quick and easy this is, and then you'll have a new sort of efficient process. So all I do here is literally grab out the title of the article, again provided from our SEO manager, and then we're going to go over to this Tech Strategist. You can already see I've kind of done a few just to kind of validate the process, and we're just going to tell it to write an article. Now I usually don't just kind of give it the title, but give it a little bit, again, like I'm interviewing them, right? Write an article outlining the best practices for successful VMC migration. Okay, so that's pretty much all you have to do. Just kind of, give an outline. Instead of outlining, because I don't want a true outline, teaching. I'm going to say teaching. An article teaching junior, and maybe I even define the audience sometimes can help. Teaching junior technologist or less experienced. Okay, that's gonna be just perfect. Okay, so let it do its thing. And you can see here right off the bat, they're kind of calling out the audience, which I don't really want to do. And so sometimes you might have to ask them to rewrite it. Sometimes it gets a little bit literal. All right, let's see if this gives us a little bit better result. Okay, yep, this is going to be good. Okay, so we're going to take this as is once it's finished here, because we seem to have kind of weeded out that little misstep. And again, the purpose of these articles, although they're not necessarily as polished as what you would get from a writer, especially a writer with experience in this topic, there are two advantages. One, for just kind of a general SEO writer, you will probably get a little bit more technically accurate content, believe it or not, and sort of more completely covered. So all the aspects would be sort of more likely to be accounted for versus someone just trying to quickly research and get up to speed in this context. And then the second thing is, this is a really economically efficient way to put a lot of content out there in a way that Google can evaluate it, and then we can sort of take the strongest stuff and reinforce it, often with a human writer, and the stuff that doesn't work we can kind of get rid of, right, without having much sunk costs. We can kind of pull that away. If it doesn't perform, we just pull it off the blog. So that's kind of the behind the scenes strategy. Okay, so we're just going to take this now, and then we're just going to again put it into this formatter, and we're going to simply ask it. You can see here I did one before, format this article for SEO, and we're going to paste it in there. So you can see how kind of this saves a lot of time, just kind of getting the formatting right. And then while this is churning, we can kind of jump over here and kind of keep this efficient, and we can say illustrate a featured. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to paste that article in there, and it's going to kind of interpret that and make some sort of gee-whizzy sort of article or feature image. All right, you can see this one's finished in the background. Okay, so this is done. Usually what I do, this is a little bit wonky, but I'm sure this will improve over time with Google Docs. All right, so we just copy this, and then we're going to go over here, and we're going to build out our document. So just simply grab a new Google Doc, and we're going to paste that in there. Like I said, not perfect, but you can format all that once you kind of put it onto the And I'm going to go ahead, since we've got that already in our copy and paste dealio, I'm going to say create keywords, or best keywords, create descriptions. I'm going to do this just for clarity. These, and we'll go stick it in my article. We'll get the description. Should be finished with that by now. Feels a little bit long. Yeah, that feels a little bit long, so I'm just going to cut it here. I don't know why. It normally kind of keeps in the word count because it kind of understands what an SEO, what a description is, but don't know why that went a little out of bounds. Okay, so there we're. Then we'll just do a little bit of cleanup formatting here. Again, if you're going to go straight to the blog, you may not need to necessarily do this. But I don't mind taking a little extra time and getting this right. So there's clarity, especially if somebody else is maybe going to publish this. It's good to kind of have everything you want done in here. Again, you could kind of do this differently. We'd probably do something like this. Actually, you know what? Just to make it simpler, I'm going to do this. And again, this is where kind of the formatting you can kind of play with a little bit as you go in here, or even on the blog to kind of make it look. The next thing you would want to do is, play with adding call to action, so we can kind of have some standards. You can see I did some of it before, so something like, yeah, let's just grab this one. So it's something just to remind us to put a call to action in here. It's probably useful. Usually to put that like right at the top here, and then there's usually a secondary call to action that I put in here, something like this. And again, I'm highlighting them just so that you can kind of remember to go back and sort of correctly put those in there. And a lot of times I like to try to put that in a logical place. Like this is kind of a logical place. We're talking about selecting the right partner. So let's finish up our formatting and then we'll essentially be done here. So again, the goal is to, do all of the workflow that you would normally do, create a good quality product, one that, if somebody were to read it, they would see that it's credible and that you kind of know what you're talking about. ChatGPT will kind of do that work for us, and then the formatting and everything kind of to make it look professional and whatnot is sort of critical here. Usually this conclusion I change and just kind of do something like ACM data migration. So again, I want to get that keyword in there again. Can be a significant is definitely with the right experience, expertise. Okay. Again, it's kind of like leading into a call to action here, right? Leverage. So we're going to do this. Leverage. Solutions. Okay, and then you can see in here, contact us today. And again, usually I just kind of, we should have defined a landing page that we're sending everybody to, and then we can just simply go in here and round out that so we don't have to kind of do it. But these other call to actions up here, we're going to kind of need to kind of double check. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one too, so we can make sure we double check that. So you essentially have 3 call to actions in every single one of these, which will help it, convert much better once we get traffic there. Okay, so the last thing that we want to do is get that featured image in here. So again, this is a little bit of, and all these things tend to kind of improve over time, but this is a little bit wonky. What it does here is at least on my computer, it's exporting what they call a WebP image, which is actually a web optimized image, but unfortunately you can't necessarily get that into a Google Doc, and so we're just gonna change this. So we're going to go File, Export. We're gonna make this a PNG. Put it back to downloads, and then that way we can pull it into the article, and again sort of have everything in one place, which makes everything a lot easier, particularly for anybody that's going to do the publishing, if that's separate from the person who's doing the content work, right? So I want to make all of these little workflows as autonomous as possible, just in case in the future we have somebody kind of do that work, right? So all right, and you can see so we got a complete everything included piece of content in sort of 20 minutes or less. So that is the workflow, and feel free to kind of optimize it, improve it, and that sort of thing. But this should be pretty easy and powerful to achieve.